Hey guys, VFX Bro here with a rundown of the effects seen in the YouTube police video. Now, obviously the biggest key to achieving the effect seen in this video is the green screen. I'm going to be running through some of the details and things we had to work around when doing these shots. The one I'm going to be going through which was the most complicated shot, which was the Lonely Island video of us on the end of the boat protecting Andy Samberg as lifeguards. So what we did was we actually shot this out on a field where Zach and I were on this drum chair that kind of rotated around, and we stood on it and had the other one of us rotate us around so that we can get the 3D perspective change seen in the original shot. And then we just had a green screen set up behind us. So with the shot brought in, we went ahead and green screened out the background using key light. There is going to be a link right here with a tutorial on how to use that green screen. Pretty simple stuff. And then we also had to add an additional mask around the feet, just because the chair wasn't green screened, and we had to work around that. So you can sometimes stay on a green screen. We didn't have enough green screen real estate to be able to do that, but for this shot, it wasn't too difficult to mask that out. And then, as you can see, as we move through this frame by frame, the mask moves to adjust for the difference in my foot positioning on the screen. So after that happened, we pre-keyed that and also added in a gray solid for the shadows. So we've got that added in there, and looks pretty good. It rotates around so that my feet look as though they have shadows on them. And then we pre-keyed that, or we pre-comped that. So after that's been done, we motion tracked the shot using a 3D motion track and PF track. There is going to be a link right here for that tutorial. So after having 3D motion track that, you can see here that we have myself put in there. You can see the null objects, which are different trackers that we added into the scene. You want to make sure that that your subject is lined up with the camera. So as you can see, the actual shot of me placed into the scene is rotating so that it stays with the camera, and that rotation avoids me looking flat in the image and gives me that 3D perspective look. So make sure that, as I mentioned in an earlier tutorial, when you have your subject selected, you're going to go to Layer, Transform, Auto Orient, and then you're going to make sure that it's oriented towards the camera. So with that oriented towards the camera, we have it looking as though I was actually there. Now, another key here was since the way that I was rotated by Zach wasn't exactly perfect with the shot, we kind of adjusted for that by doing a time remap. And what we do with that is we take a keyframe right where we saw that I started to get off track a little bit. So you can see here that the camera is doing, in the real shot, the camera is spinning around at this speed right here, which is pretty consistent. And then right here, it starts to back away from the boat. And so the change in perspective isn't going to be as great because we're not moving that far in degrees relative to the subject. So right here we set a keyframe, and then later on we set another keyframe, and we dragged it out so that it slowed down. So what we can see here is that as we drag this, if we drag this time keyframe forward and back, it's going to adjust the amount of rotation that I have. So it's a really easy way to compensate for differences in the perspective change between your subject and the original shot. So we have that keyframe selected, and if we move it back and forth, it kind of just adjusts how far I was rotated in the shot. So we've got that taken care of, and the next step after that was to adjust the levels. Levels is something that I use on almost every green screen shot, something that you want to get familiar with, definitely. And the levels are just to adjust for the pretty much the exposure in the scene. So you can see that not black in a real scene isn't necessarily true black. And what we did for this shot actually was we brightened me up, because you can see that the brights in this shot were a little bit brighter than the original shot. So if I take off the levels, you can see what the original exposure was, and you can see that I look a little bit more green screen here because my exposure levels aren't exactly the same as the shot. So we tried to compensate that by changing the levels so that the darks are actually a little bit darker, because you can see there's quite a bit of contrast in the scene. So levels is something you want to definitely get used to, and it takes kind of a lot of eyeing to see and to make sure that the original shot matches with your green screen footage. So after we do that, we pre-comped that and we moved it into this final comp right here. And what we did for this here is the biggest difference was adding in the shadow. And for that shadow, what we did was we took an adjustment layer and we took down the levels so that it was affecting. We didn't want to just put black, but we wanted to affect our background. So if you use an adjustment layer, it's going to affect different colors in different ways, which is perfect because that's what shadows do in real life. So we took the adjustment layer here, which was me, and so all we really did for this is you want to make sure that your shadows are affecting an area that you can realistically duplicate. So we had me placed here, and so the shadow is on flat ground, which makes it really easy to do because it's just flat. And so we've got that adjustment layer on, and what we did was we used that adjustment layer and set it as an alpha matte for myself. And that shot of myself we rotated so that it was on the ground here. So originally we just copied it. I was originally up here like this, and then we flattened it out on the ground, and then we stretched it out just because that's what shadows look like, or at least in this scene. So we had that stretched out shadow, and then we had our adjustment layer alpha matted to that shot of me so that it matches perfectly. And obviously this is all placed in 3D in After Effects, or 2.5D, and as the camera perspective changes, so does the shadow. So it works out perfectly. So yeah, there you have it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. One other thing, I know that in the video at the end, I asked the question of which one of us you thought was green screen between Zach King, Final Cut King, and I, the VFX bro. And Zach was actually the one green screened. So if you watched this tutorial all the way through, now you know. And yeah, this has been VFX bro with a breakdown in the YouTube police video. Take care, guys.